Welcome to Nutrition 101. So today we're really just going to go over a foundation of nutrition stuff. Might be some stuff you've heard before. Hopefully it's like kind of growing on that and there's some nuggets of information you can kind of pull from it to help balance your life and balance your diet out. All right, so the agenda, we're going to go over the macronutrients, some micronutrients. We're going to talk about hydration, and then we're briefly going to touch on alcohol and kind of its effects on the body. So, how to spot a fad diet. Many diets have attempted to target one nutrient or food group as a means for improving overall health. So, popular ones are going to be gluten free, low fat, sugar free, low carb. So, what happens when we remove a nutrient from a food product, right? Once it's removed, it's often substituted with another additive, and that's to increase the flavor back in, the texture, and the shelf stability you might have taken out when you pulled that nutrient out in the first place. So, when you're looking at low carb, typically those are going to be replaced with animal proteins and fats. Gluten free, it's going to be replaced by starch, sugar, and fat. Sugar free is normally replaced with unhealthy fats and fillers, and fat free is replaced with preservatives and sugar, and that's typically to replace the moisture and maintain shelf stability. So you don't really get something for nothing. When you take something out, you have to put something back into it. Um, so this is kind of why these types of diets aren't really the best, right?
Mhm.
So we'll move into some macronutrients and more specifically carbohydrates. Um, so these are the six nutrients that are essential for life. So macronutrients, we're looking at carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Your micronutrients are going to be your minerals and vitamins, which are just as important. And then water is kind of in its own category, right? No calories, but we need it to survive, basically.
Mhm.
Many foods don't just fall into one category. So it's not just a carbohydrate, it's not just a protein, it's not just a fat. So examples of that are going to be beans. They're going to be a carbohydrate as well as a protein. Nuts are going to be a healthy fat, and they're also going to fall into the protein category. Quinoa is going to be a protein as well as a carb. And chia seeds, getting wild, they are going to be a carb, protein, and a fat. So they fall into all different categories. So just kind of keep that in mind when we talk about balancing the plate later. Some of these things might fall into multiple categories.
Mhm.
So carbohydrates, they're going to be 1 calorie per gram. These are going to be your sugars, starches, and fibers found in foods. Carbs mostly come from plants, but you will see dairy ended up on here, right? So,
Mm.
milk has lactose, which is also a carb. It's a milk sugar. So, keep that in mind when you're having dairy products. It's also going to kind of fall into the carbohydrate category for one of its categories. Um, our brain is actually fueled by glucose, which is the broken down version of carbohydrates, right? So this is why it's so important, and I tell people not to be go towards diets that are kind of keto, carb free, Atkins, that whole thing. Your brain needs it for fuel. And typically, if people go into these diets and they're super low carb, they might kind of feel sluggish. They might get some mental brain fog and they might be a little bit irritable. So that's kind of why I shy away from that. Carbs are not the enemy. They have a lot of really good properties in them, and they're important for our brain to function. Glycemic index. So you might have heard this term before. Basically, glycemic index is a ranking of carbohydrates on a scale from 0 to 100 according to the extent that they raise your blood sugar or blood glucose level after
Mhm.
eating it. So your high glycemic index foods are going to be your processed sugars, like your chips, your cookies, your bread. They're going to cause spikes and then also crashes. So it's going to kind of look like this roller coaster situation on the screen right here. It's going to go up and down and up and down when you're eating foods like that, which is not what we're looking for overall health, right?
Mhm.
Our lower glycemic index foods are going to be complex carbohydrates. And what I mean by that is they're also going to come with fiber. So this is going to be your fruits and veggies. They're going to absorb more slowly. It's going to have a moderate impact on your blood sugar. So these can stabilize energy levels, help with mood swings and cravings. So these are kind of the carbs you want in your diet. All right. So since we just talked about fiber, we'll go into fiber. So there's two different types of fiber, right? Fiber is a carb that comes from plants. It provides their structure. There's two different types. And typically foods are going to have a mix of the two. So when you're getting one, you're typically getting the other. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and it creates a sticky bolus, important for capturing oil-soluble substances. So think about cholesterol. If you have high cholesterol, you're going to want to add a little bit of soluble fiber to your diet. It can help.
Mm,
And it's going to clear it from the body. So a little bit higher in the things like nuts, seeds, beans, and lentils. Your insoluble fiber is going to act like a sponge. It creates a bulk to enhance motility and promote regularity. So if you're not going regularly, you want to help out your GI a little bit, you're looking for your insoluble fiber, and that's going to be things like berries, vegetables, and whole grains. Protein is also going to be 4 calories per gram. There's a lot of different things you can get protein from, right? So you can get it from dairy, you can get it from tofu, fish, beans, nuts, meats, eggs, a ton of different variety. Our proteins are composed of amino acids, and those are going to be our building blocks. And we need to ingest adequate amounts of these um, to be able to, build muscle. If we don't get all of our essential ones, our body's going to break down the muscles we've already built. So all the hard work we've put in at the gym is going to get broken down um, to obtain it, right? If we're not getting it from our diet.
mhm,
A little bit more about our amino acids. So there's 9 essential. We have to obtain them from food. 11 are non-essential. Your body can produce these. Then we have the categories that falls right in the middle. So these are going to be our conditionally non-essential. So sometimes if you're sick or you're going through a lot of stress, they become conditionally essential, right? So what roles do proteins play in the body? Why are they important? They are going to have a role in making enzymes, cholesterol, and hormones like insulin and estrogen. They're going to promote growth and maintenance. And they're also going to be building antibodies and maintaining electrolytes. So, having a varied diet is going to help you be able to get all of these amino acids and help your body function properly. You might
mm,
have heard of the term complete protein. And what that's going to mean is um, that protein contains all of the 9 essential amino acids that you need. And typically, that's going to be from animal proteins. They're going to be your complete proteins. So, say you don't eat a lot of meat, you're vegetarian. You're going to need to eat a wide variety of different types of foods, like your vegetables, carbohydrates, to be able to get all of those different amino acids because they're going to be weaker in those types of foods. So, for example, if you're having a meal, you would want to do rice and beans. They're going to be complementary. It's going to make a complete protein. And that's how you can get all of your essential amino acids. So really work on pairing different foods together to be able to do that. If you have a wide variety in your diet, you don't really need to sit down and be like, I had this today, I had this today, it made this complete protein. It's really just about balance and having a varied diet to make sure you're getting all of these different things. All right, moving on to fats. So fats are going to be a little bit more than carbs and protein. They're going to be at 9 calories per gram. So a couple different types of fats. You're going to have your unsaturated fats. That's going to be your olive oil, your sunflower oil, fish oil, soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil. These are going to usually be liquid at room temperature. That's kind of how you can tell them apart. Your saturated fats are going to be your animal products, processed food. Coconut oil is kind of its own little saturated fat. So it's saturated fat and it should be used sparingly. A lot of people use it kind of in place of olive oil. It's not the same. It has a lot of saturated fat. On a chemistry level, it's absorbed a little bit differently than the animal saturated fat, but it still falls into that category. So keep that kind of in the back of your mind too, use it sparingly as you would the other saturated fats. So Saturated fats are going to potentially raise your LDL, and that's going to be your bad cholesterol in your body. So, consumed in high amounts potentially raise that. So, that's kind of why we're trying to stay away from saturated fats. Trans fats are a
Oh God.
fat all of their own. So, a
It
lot of
was.
times they get bad. Yep. So avoid these really. And what they are really is they're modified through a process of hydrogenation to transform liquid to solid states. So why was this even invented? Why did we do this? Basically, it improves texture and shelf stability for food. So it was really done um, kind of for stuff to taste better, for it to last longer. There's no health benefits here. It was not done for a health reason. It was really just for shelf stability and to improve texture. So there's no daily recommendation for these, and really just try to avoid them as much as possible. If you are looking on a food label trying to figure out if you don't see the trans fat, it should be there anyways. You'll see in the ingredients list hydrogenated, fried, shortening. Typically, these are going to be found in fast foods and then shelf stable baked goods. So that's normally where these come into play. So try to avoid these as much as possible and have sparingly. So our healthy fats, this is going to be like our unsaturated fats, omega-3, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. They have some cardioprotective properties. They're good for brain health. They're good for immunity. They help the gut microbiome. They're good for skin health, and they're also good for cell structure in our bodies. All right, let's look at some micronutrients and vitamins.
Mhm.
So vitamins and minerals required in trace amounts are essential for growth, development, metabolism, energy production, repair of tissues, immune support, hormone synthesis, and enzyme activation. Um, so, what do we think happens when we don't get the correct amount of vitamins in our body? Any guesses?
You're gonna get sick.
Develop
Yes.
deficiencies and you develop illnesses. Like with
Yep.
vitamin D, you can develop rickets. With vitamin A,
Mm-hmm.
you can develop blindness. With vitamin B12, you can develop neuropathy. And I guess I learned all that stuff in medical school too.
Yeah. Absolutely. So on a broader scale, those were very fine-tuned. You get an A there for those answers. But lots of different things, not limited to these specific things: loss of appetite, loss of body weight, increased irritability, sleeplessness, drowsiness, increased risk for certain disease. So tons of different things that can happen if you don't get enough vitamins, which goes back to eating a broad, balanced diet. You're going to get all of these things in your diet. So there's two different types of vitamins. So there's going to be our fat soluble vitamins and there's going to be our water soluble vitamins. So our fat soluble, these are going to be stored in tissues and remain there. So they're a little bit more dangerous than our water soluble ones, right? So it's important to supplement very, very carefully with these because you don't want to get like a toxicity. They're not going to be excreted from your body like your water soluble vitamins. They're going to stay in your body. So what I always tell people, if you're kind of looking at the back of a multivitamin and it says vitamin A in 500% of your daily value, that is not the vitamin you want to take. You want to make sure it's not over 100. Even a little bit lower than that would be great because you're probably getting it from foods as well. So these are going to be our fat soluble vitamins. We got vitamin A, D, E, and K. Our water soluble vitamins are going to be kind of our B vitamins. We also got vitamin C in there. And they're a little bit safer. So with water soluble, you kind of just excrete them through your urine if you get too much of them. So let's look at some vitamins. So what do vitamins do? Vitamin A is going to be involved in immune function, vision, cellular communication, growth, and development. So all super important things. What are some good sources? Orange, yellow, and red fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, and various fish. So salmon, mackerel, bluefin tuna, and also you can find it in dairy products. Vitamin B9, also known as folate, um, plays a role in red blood cell formation, healthy cell growth and function, and it's important in early pregnancy. Good sources are going to be kale, citrus fruits, eggs, broccoli, cabbage, beans, and legumes. A question I get a lot is folate versus folic acid. What's the difference, right? So it's often used interchangeably, but they're actually two different forms of vitamin B. So folate is going to be what occurs naturally in food. Folic acid is a synthetic or artificial form of B9 that it's found in supplements and in fortified foods. So in 1998, the US required that folic acid be added to certain grains, so rice, bread, pastas, and cereals to ensure adequate public intake. Your body needs to change folic acid into another form of folate before it can be used for nutrition. So honestly, if you go into a store now, it's really hard to find any products that are rice, bread, pasta, or cereals without that in it. But so that's going to be in most of our products like that. And then just to throw another ringer in there, you might see methylfolate on like a multivitamin or see it in other stuff. This is a natural, easier to digest form of the B9 supplement than folic acid. So your body can immediately use this type of folic acid with no conversion. Right. Vitamin B12, essential in red blood cell formation, cell metabolism, nerve function, and the production of DNA. Good sources are going to be fortified cereals, clams, beef, fortified nutritional yeast, salmon, and eggs. So we're going to move into some minerals, water, and then briefly touch on some alcohol. So minerals, there is over 3,800 minerals identified. They activate thousands of enzymatic reactions, assist with vitamin functions, help metabolize carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and also regulate water balance. So an important mineral is going to be calcium, mostly associated with bone and teeth health, but it also plays an important role in blood clotting. It helps the muscles contract and regulate normal heart rhythms and nerve functions. Good sources are obviously going to be everyone thinks about dairy products, but you can also find it in collard greens, turnip greens, kale, bok choy, sardines, and tofu. Magnesium is going to be a cofactor in more than 300 enzyme systems that regulate biochemical reactions in the body, including protein synthesis, muscle and nerve function, blood glucose control, and blood pressure regulation. So good sources of this are going to be green leafy vegetables such as spinach, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Zinc is going to be good for development and growth of cells, tissues, and organs, fundamental to skin health and wound healing, DNA synthesis, and protein production. Good sources for this is going to be red meats, poultry, shrimp, shellfish, nuts, seeds, oats, quinoa, brown rice, and dairy products. Potassium, one of our electrolytes, main role in the body is to help maintain normal levels of fluid inside our cells. Sodium is going to be the counterpart to potassium, which maintains normal fluid levels outside the cells. Potassium also helps with muscles to contract and support normal blood pressure. This is going to be found in your leafy greens, beans, nuts, dairy foods, and starchy vegetables like winter squash. Iron. It's a mineral that our body needs for growth and development. Our body uses it to make hemoglobin, a protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen from the lungs to all parts of our bodies. Good sources are going to be red meats, legumes, spinach, shellfish, quinoa, and turkey. You can also cook in a cast iron pan and the food will absorb some of that iron. So if you're like, I don't want to eat any of those foods you just listed, not that it's just in these foods, but if you cook with a cast iron pan, you're going to get some iron from it. So water. Water is very important. It's going to help eliminate waste from the body, maintain normal body temperature, lubricate joints, maintain healthy tissues. I get asked a lot, how much water should I be drinking a day? What does that look like? For just an average kind of general guideline, you're going to take your weight, you're going to divide it by 2. So if you're 200 pounds and you divide it by 2, you're going to get 100 ounces a day. So you're looking at 10 glasses at 10 ounces per day. Just a general guideline. You don't have to hit it spot on. But it's a really good way to be able to say, oh, I'm doing well with my water consumption, or I'm really not doing well with my water consumption if you're far off from that number. All right. So alcohol. Um, how is alcohol processed in the body? So about 20% of alcohol is rapidly absorbed in the stomach. It can cause irritation to stomach lining, and that's how your blood alcohol rises. The other 80% is absorbed in the small intestine. It may cause inflammation. That's going to make your blood alcohol rise. And then alcohol is directed to the liver, where it is converted to acetate. Liver can only metabolize about 1 drink per hour. Alcohol that is not metabolized gets recirculated to the brain, causing impairment and loss of ability to control motor behavior. So that's the alcohol that's kind of going around that didn't get metabolized. And that's why it's recommended just 1 drink per hour, because that's really all your body can handle. All right. And then this is going to be what your plate should look like. So you want half your plate to be fruits and vegetables. You want a fourth of your plate to be protein. And then the other corner is going to be kind of your greens, maybe some nuts and seeds, any other little thing you can fit in.